Yes, we all grew up watching horror movies. We loved them. We loved the famous characters. But what about those horror movies that stuck with us at the end? Of course, today I am talking about horror movies that actually scared me. How's it going, everyone? And thank you for tuning into another episode here at Figure Out Films. I'm your host, as always, Chris. And today I'm so excited because we're talking about horror movies that actually scare me. Horror movies that are actually scary. Now, I love this subgenre. I'm sure so many people do too. But like, we really watch them not only just for the fun and for the cool effects and the stories, but we want to get scared. We want to get that feeling of that chill down our spine, the sweat coming down our forehead, and just having the trauma of images imprinted in our mind forever. Maybe that last one was just me, but that's what we're talking about today. And if you love horror movies and you love being scared, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything else on this channel. We hit that 1K mark and we're just gonna keep on pushing, keep on growing. So I'm excited for the future to see what things go on. And speaking of the future, let's talk some scary horror movies. Now, before we get started, none of these movies are ranked from like my least scary to my most scared. These are 10 scary movies for me. These are movies that have put a stain on the horror genre for me, so to speak, because they are still scary. And none for me comes quickly to mind than in 2008's The Strangers. There's something about home invasion that just scares me. I don't know if it was because I grew up in a house where my parents always forgot to lock the doors, or just this idea of someone trying to sneak into my house when I was sleeping or when everyone else was sleeping and I'm the only one that could hear it and has to stop it. I am not sure, but home invasion is just one of those subgenres of horror. I can't do it. It's just too scary. It's too realistic for me. And when it comes to The Strangers, I remember watching this movie because I think it had a lot of hype when it was coming out in 2008. Basically, Liv Tyler is in this house and three masked strangers break in and try to terrorize her and her house, and she has to learn to survive. This movie actually just had a new release come out, and I think there's actually a sequel that's about to release in theaters soon too. But The Strangers for me will always be that movie with the people with the cloth mask torturing and basically toying with Liv Tyler, and it just felt super uncomfortable, unnerving, and very realistic. I did not enjoy it at all when it came out, and it always has been on my mind. What would happen if people just wanted to just break into your house because they were bored and thought it'd be fun? That to me is a scary concept that I'll take with me. And no, I have not seen any of the sequels since this original. Coming in next is a 2011 movie that I feel like has a weird cult following, but luckily it's not because people like this movie, but because they're scarred by it. And for me, I'm definitely scarred by this movie. I'm talking about the found footage, terrifying film, Megan is Missing. I don't want to talk too much about this movie because I don't want to really give it that much glory, but I gotta applaud. It's a damn scary movie. It's very uncomfortable. Basically, what this movie is about is it follows this girl named Megan who is talking to someone on the internet in chat rooms, and it comes to find out that the person that she's chatting with is actually someone who's trying to abduct her. And it's all through that, like, the webcam found footage style that was really big in the early 2010s. And to me, I think it's a really good concept. I like these movies like Unfriended and the Missing movies where it's like from the view, POV style, from like a webcam or from like a computer. I like those movies. I think it really works. And Megan is Missing, unfortunately, does work really well. And I say that unfortunately because you have to go through this movie and deal with the nervousness of the webcams of this movie until you get to that final act, which is absolutely scarring. But basically, Megan is kidnapped and her friends are trying to investigate what happened to her and who was responsible for taking her. You get some web call scenes that are truly chilling. The voice acting is great in this. But yeah, Megan is Missing is not a movie you want to watch multiple times. It's like one and done, and if you can even finish it. It's just one of those weird grindhouse, urban legend type of movies. Have you seen Megan is Missing? I am so sorry for you, but let me know down in the comments below. Coming in next is a classic. This is a late John Carpenter movie that I saw quite a few years ago, and I remember watching it thinking, man, I feel scared. This is good. And that is 1987's Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness from John Carpenter is such a great movie. It's so scary. The Prince of Darkness, basically, it's a bunch of like age-old secrets from the Catholic Church. A bunch of priests found like this oozing cylinder, and they didn't tell anybody about it, and they put it in this church in LA of all places. It finds its way there, and a lot of freaky things start happening. And basically, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I can't remember which, goes with a couple of students to investigate this whole thing for a friend. And it turns out that it is a possessive based. It's otherworldly. It's supernatural. And basically, the devil is trying to open a portal to the human world to hell. Donald Pleasance stars in this movie, which I think he does a great job in this. I really feel the urgency that something bad is coming, and it's maybe inevitable as well. When it touches on the religious aspects as well, I think it works really, really well. Something about religious horror really gets me. Maybe it's growing up as a Catholic, but I'm just saying growing up in that atmosphere, it just kind of blends in well with me. It really gets me scared. And like when I hear the voice of like this demonic being, it really does send a chill down my spine. This is a movie like after the credits rolled, I was like, I felt like I witnessed evil. But that's a testament to how good this movie is. It is not a boring movie. It's very interesting. It's very methodical in some ways too. But it has that great John Carpenter, filmmaking in there. So Prince of Darkness has to be one of the scariest movies for me. Coming in next is a staple of mine. I'm still scared of this franchise, but I love it nonetheless, and I think it's highly underrated. I am talking about 1997's Anaconda. Anaconda, man, I am terrified of snakes. No matter what, I don't fuck with them. I can't handle snakes. And now when you put in a movie, one of the biggest snakes in the world trying to kill you, I mean, yeah, it's terrifying as hell. So, Anaconda, the first movie starring Jennifer Lopez, Owen Wilson, and of course my man Ice Cube, and Jon Voight as well. Quite the cast in 1997. They're traveling through the Amazon for this business, and eventually they run into the Anaconda. The Anaconda is hungry, and it stumbles upon their boat and is stalking them. And it's picking apart the crew one by one until a final confrontation. The snake is good, I'm not gonna lie, and I think that's part of the reason I'm so scared of this movie too. I'm getting shivers right now talking about it. Actually, I'm like tingling a little. But the snake looks really good. It's like animatronic, and it's huge. It has this very mean-looking face, and I love the characters. Basically, Ice Cube and Jennifer Lopez figure out that they have to kill this anaconda, but Jon Voight has like an affinity for it because he's a hunter, and it's the biggest freaking snake ever. There's some great filmmaking and some shots here. I really do enjoy this movie. On rewatch, of course, I do have to put the covers over my eyes because of the fact that it is scary to me. And of course, its sequel, The Hunt for the Blood Orchid, as well, I would even throw in here, is pretty creepy for me because you get so many different snakes. And they're CGI, but they're still pretty... They are still pretty scary nonetheless. But Anaconda for me, it's a classic 90s movie, creature feature. I highly recommend you check out. And it's definitely one of the movies that traumatized me as a kid. Up next is a 2014 movie that I had no idea what I was getting into. And honestly, I kind of think I did. Let me put it this way. 2014 movies like Human Centipede and all the like Serbian film and all these over-the-top, insane idea horror movies were flooding the market and the internet. And one that stood out to me the most, now I haven't seen Serbian film or anything like that, but I will say that 2014's Tusk is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Tusk starring Justin Long, directed by Kevin Smith. Yes, Kevin Smith of Chasing Amy fame, of Clerks, ended up doing a horror movie called Tusk. Now, Justin Long plays a podcaster, I believe he's a podcaster, and he wants to do this story on this Canadian hunter. And it turns out that he had an affinity for a specific animal, the walrus. And Justin Long, while he's going to Canada, he's keeping his friends updated on the story, but soon realizes the person he's interviewing is actually having more sinister plans in mind. Eventually, Justin Long's character is drugged and starts to become psychologically tortured by the old man, and the old man finally says, hey, I am actually going to splice, because he's a doctor, I believe. He's going to splice and make him a walrus, a human walrus. Kevin Smith really goes for it. And let me tell you, like, just how bad I feel for Justin Long. And I know, I love Justin Long, don't get me wrong. He's great. Barbarian, Jeepers Creepers, Galaxy Quest, yes. I love the guy, and he usually gets tortured and killed in a lot of his movies. But this one, I really feel for him. He's got a cool stash, so I respect that. But the psychological torture and just like the demeaning attitude that he receives from the doctor is just really heart-wrenching, and it's kind of like torture porn. Like, why am I watching this? Like, and then when you get the final shot of him as the walrus, it is truly unnerving and unnecessary. I don't know why Kevin Smith decided to do this. I applaud it, but also he shouldn't have had to do this movie. We'd be better off without Tusk. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this controversial movie? Let me know down in the comments below. Coming in next is a movie I think we were too mean to. We were too mean to this movie growing up. Now, I don't know if it's because there was so many sequels or if it was a cool thing to hate. I'm not sure, but I'm talking about 2007's Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is a scary movie. Okay, yeah, when it first came out, people thought, oh, is this real or is this isn't? Like, people couldn't tell. And then they made another one, and then people were like, okay, it's fake, it's fake. But there was a time there were people were not sure if this was real or fake. And also, it was considered one of the scariest movies. It was one of the movies where the trailers were playing, and it caught a live audience reaction and stuff like that. I would take Paranormal Activity audience reaction compilations versus MCU cameo reactions. Yeah. Anyway, Paranormal Activity is a found footage movie. Basically, it's a POV from a camcorder of this couple in this house who start to experience a paranormal entity, a demonic entity in their house, and they don't know what to do with it because it's constantly active while they're sleeping. So they decide to record themselves while they're sleeping and throughout the house at night to try and get proof of this thing. And honestly, it's truly terrifying. The techniques that are used in this to show this apparition, this demonic entity in their house, is pretty terrifying, and it slowly corrupts the mind of the couple in this apartment, in this house, and you really feel for them. Eventually, things descend into madness and chaos, and you don't know what to believe anymore, if it's in reality or not. It's a truly scary movie, and the final act as well is a little chilling. The fact that this movie uses like the night cam vision and the actors are portrayed so realistically as if this was real, you really buy into it. And honestly, the lore of Paranormal Activity is pretty interesting. I would say the first 4 movies are really good. I would argue the marked ones is really great as well. But Paranormal Activity, I feel like people really hated on as soon as it came out for some reason. Maybe it's because we were all scared and we just thought we'd laugh at it to make ourselves feel better. But I think on rewatch, it still is pretty good. And next this is a personal one for me, and it's a weird one. I kind of know why, and I don't know why. Also, I don't love this movie and hate it in a way, but also it has a recipe that I should love this movie. I'm talking about 1989's Brian Yuzna's Society. Society is like I said, Brian Yuzna movie. And if you don't know Brian Yuzna, he worked with Stuart Gordon. He did a lot of body horror, a lot of sequel movies like the Reanimator franchise. He did Return of the Living Dead 3 as well. He just, staple. The guy knows his stuff when it comes to makeup, writing, and body horror. And this movie is straight up body horror. Basically, this boy, Billy, he's part of a wealthy family. He lives in like Beverly Hills in California. Him and his sister and his mom and dad. He has a pretty wealthy, privileged life. However, as he's gotten older, he's starting to realize his family's a little weird. And actually, the society, get that? See that? That he lives among is pretty weird. When he goes off to school and then he comes back home, he realizes everyone's off. Everything's weird. And they start to take a fascination to him as well. He's different than all the rest. And he starts to believe that his family and the community is part of a cult of some kind. And he's trying to prove that this cult exists, and no one believes him. And he's trying to find proof, and he ends up in all these predicaments. However, it comes to find out there is a alien society that he's living among. And these people are feasting on each other and other people in like a body horror frenzy orgy. It is insane. People are wearing like face masks, like the Skinwalker concept is this. It's so freaky. It's so interesting and terrifying all at the same time. I remember seeing this movie in college and I never wanted to see it again. There was some really terrifying, disturbing body horror sequences. And talking about body horror now with like The Substance, I love The Substance. I would watch that shit any day of the week. That's just great stuff right there. but something about Society, I don't know if it's because it's so on the nose that it's unnerving while also mixing in such blatant, obvious body horror. I don't know. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a great movie. I think the story's really interesting, but I just can't get my mind out of all the different parts of people's skin attached to other people and sucking on others and seeing faces in different parts of the body. It's truly grotesque and it's really good taste. I'm not saying it's like shock. I mean, it's probably shock value, but I don't know. It just is not for me. How to get Chris freaked out? Put on Society, you know? Like strap me on a chair, open my eyes and play Society. I will be screaming. I can't do it. I can't do it. What are your thoughts on Brian Yuzna and Society? Are you all a fan? Let me know down in the comments below. I don't know why it doesn't work for me, but it's just a scary movie for me, man. And next is a recent movie that I watched a couple years ago. Actually, I was so lucky I saw it in theaters because I would never see this movie if I didn't, and then wouldn't have the impact in terms of scary movies for me if I had it. I am talking about the 2022 controversial horror movie, Skinamarink. Skinamarink is directed by Kyle Ball, who actually used to run a YouTube channel. They did a lot of creepy short horror movie films on his channel. Finally got to do a full-length movie, and he came with Skinamarink. Skinamarink, kind of in Paranormal Activity fashion, is like a found footage movie. It's basically a demonic entity has possessed this house. It's taken advantage of this house. And these two little kids whose father is missing because he was attacked by the entity, goes to the hospital, and their mother is missing too. These two kids, brother and sister, have to figure out and maneuver through the house to find where their mom and dad went. And it turns out that this demonic entity wants to play with them and wants to basically possess them and devour them and do whatever things in the void. I don't know. It's a really freaky movie, but this movie is shot like a analog horror movie. It looks really old, like VHS style taping. It's really creepy. There's a really deep voice used for the demonic being. It's truly creepy and unhinged. You also get some early 1930s cartoons playing for the kids in the background too, and you hear them whispering and talking to each other. The voice actor for the kids, they're pretty good. It's really it really adds to the horror and the realism of this. The fact that it's analog too, you hear a lot of static and stuff, and you hear whispering, and it's just really unnerving. And the fact that you can't see shit when you're watching the movie, like you literally can't see almost anything because it's analog and it's dark at night. It works to its favor when you're watching it in a theater. If I was watching it in broad daylight, I would think it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. People complain that there's nothing going on in this movie, but if you really invest in it, if you're in a movie theater or you're at the night, the lights are off and you're with somebody who's locked in with you, or you're locked in by yourself if you're that brave, it will truly terrify you. There's some really unnerving, uncomfortable sequences in this movie. There's some cheap scares too. This movie was memed. I'm all for a meme movie, I'm not gonna lie. But I saw this at the Music Box, and I watched it it was a midnight showing, and there was like 8 other people with me, and after the movie ended, we all just kind of did a collective sigh and go like, what the hell was that? And like laughed unnervously and clapped. It was a great time. This movie's freaky. I don't want to really see it again unless I'm with someone. But I highly encourage people to go see Skinamarink. I will defend it, but I will also criticize it too because it's one of those movies. But it's absolutely terrifying. Coming in next is a Figure Out Film staple. I feel like I talk about this movie almost on every list, but that's because this movie's great. I love this movie. I'm talking about 2007's Wreck. Wreck is a great found footage, POV style, a camcorder, whatever you want to call it, film. It takes place in Spain. It's a foreign language film. It's about a virus outbreak in a post-pandemic world we live in. This movie works even better now in the fact that it's recorded on like a camcorder. Works so well. Basically, the movie starts. We follow the main characters, who are some news reporters who are out on a late night run with some firefighters who go on a routine call in a hotel building or apartment building, and it turns out that there's some people sick. And then from there it goes down straight to hell. That there's a virus breaking out, that the military and the police will not let the people inside the apartment leave, and that when they try to escape, they have to deal with the military. And then it comes to find out that there's an infection going on within the building, and then come to find out that this virus and how it's spread starts to reanimate the people or turn them into ferocious people. It's truly terrifying. It's heart pounding as well. It's a movie that's really dark and poignant, and when you see like how the people turn into these zombie infected people and they chase after, they're so loud and they're so scary. There's blood being vomited everywhere. It's just really good. No one feels safe, and it's really well made. It's really great filmmaking. I've talked about it plenty of times before, but check out Wreck, baby. It's so good. And finally, we gotta end it with the classic. This movie still terrifies me in some ways. It's not like scary, like I can't watch it. It's more like, man, I remember when I first watched this feeling unnerving, and sometimes I still do. I'm talking about 1973's The Exorcist. William Friedkin's Exorcist. Again, growing up Catholic, you know. But here's the thing. The Exorcist is great. The Exorcist is a great movie that stood the test of time. It's still terrifying. Linda Blair plays Reagan, who ends up becoming slowly possessed by a demon or the devil, we don't know. And a priest who is struggling with a crisis of faith, is asked to kind of help poor Reagan and see what's going on. Comes to find out he believes that it's he needs to perform an exorcism because she's being possessed. And throughout the movie, we see the antics of this demonic being taking over Reagan, and poor Reagan is helpless, and this father is trying to help as well. William Friedkin really, you know, he was a maverick filmmaker. He had such a great filmography. And then he does something like The Exorcist, which, you know, for him was a very personable movie. This is a movie he really wanted to do, and I really enjoy when I watch it on Blu-ray that you get the forwarding by him. It's really great to hear and see like the passion he had for this movie and this story. Again, this movie terrifies audiences. Some people call it one of the scariest movie ever made. I like the imagery in this movie and the score. It's really chilling, and the lack of music when the two priests are performed, because Maximin Snowden's in this movie as well. Attempt to perform this exorcism on Reagan. She just starts to float, and there's like no music, no sound except them saying the power of Christ compels you. But yeah, I remember watching for the first time and thinking, man, this is some scary stuff. This feels really real in some ways. But anyway, it's a classic for a reason, so check out The Exorcist. And there you have it. Those are the 10 scariest movies to me. These are the movies that terrify me to death. Were there any that I missed that you got scared of growing up? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like more videos like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything else. Hit that little notification bell as well so you can get updated on all these cool videos and topics as well. Don't forget to hit the socials and check out all the posts of all the physical media pickups as well. I want to thank you all for subscribing and breaking that 1K mark for us. Let's keep climbing. Let's keep going. And I really appreciate it. But that'll do it for us here at Figure Out Films. My name is Chris as always. And remember, if you're not watching horror movies to get scared, do you really care about cinema? Other than that, I'll see you next time.